Never done that before, but it did it today. So, as Jenna said, I am the daughter of two teachers. My mother was a teacher, my father was a teacher. Most of their friends were teachers. Most of our relatives were teachers. So I grew up from the time I was a little itty bitty thing until I became a teacher myself, hearing teacher stories. And so that's what I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to tell you two stories. And now, when I was a teacher and taking in all of these other teacher stories, I realized that as I told my students stories, that they were more attentive if I became involved in it and I became part of the story. So I learned that way to tell my stories through monologues, which are a little different than real storytelling, I guess, so I hope you'll enjoy it anyway. Now, the story I'm going to tell is about, what else? A teacher. And there are all kinds of teachers. There are bubbly, happy teachers. There are solemn, studied teachers. There are laid-back teachers. And then there are cranky, unpleasant, close to retirement, long overdue, about to have a breakdown types of teachers. And that's the type of teacher that I'm going to be telling you about today. And I'm also going to ask, how many of you have said these words to someone who just got home? Hi, honey, how's your day? Raise your hand if you've ever said that. Oh, yeah. Okay, this first story, entitled Valentino's High, is about a poor man named Chauncey. And he made the dreadful mistake of saying to his wife, the crazy teacher, who had had a horrible day, hi, honey, how was your day? So we're going to take it from there. You want to know how my day was, Chauncey? Do you really want to know? All right, I'm going to tell you how it was. It was worse than the day I had before my second to last breakdown in 2008. And I remember that it was 2008 because that was the year I had Darnell and David Hickey in my room, the Hickey twins. Oh yeah, it was bad. It was beyond horrendous. It was. And I'm nervous and I'm sad and I'm parched. So if you want to know the rest of my day, you're going to have to get me some, I don't know, some water or some wine. No. Get the Jack Daniels. And Chauncey, you bring the jelly jar, and you just start pouring. Because if I want to start telling you about my day, I'm going to need that kind of support. Well, I don't know what I was thinking to have brought that poor, sweet little hamster into that room full of wild, disobedient, uncivilized children. I must have been insane, yes. It must have been temporary insanity. How many times have I told them not to touch the hamster unless I am in the room? How many times, Chauncey? Don't answer me. I'm telling you about my day. You just keep pouring. Oh, well, it all started with Wellington Hollandseed. Now that child, now I would not say that outside of these four walls of our home. And I would only say it to you, Chauncey, because you know I love children. I think children are wonderful little creatures, and I respect them. But that Wellington Hollandseed is the second coming of Hannibal Lecter. We're going to be hearing from him, and we're going to be hearing about him. And it won't be good, Chauncey, it won't be good. And those parents of his, those people are not just husband and wife. They were related long before the wedding. When have you ever seen a couple where both the husband and the wife have a widow's peak that connects to a unibrow? That's a DNA issue right there. That's what that is. I was looking at them at the last parent-teacher conference and thinking on it. And they reproduced, Chauncey, they reproduced. Breaking all kinds of natural laws and taboos and things penalties, and not to mention all the sin involved. Well, Valentino the hamster has never liked Wellington. Never liked him. He likes all the other children, but when Wellington appears, he circles his cage and looks very wary. It was the end of the day. When all the horror began to happen. It was the end of the day. And I had stepped across to Miss McKinney's room to discuss the lineup for the bus schedule, because you know we have that new principal, and I am convinced that he is trying to drive all the teachers into early retirement and frighten all the children into homeschool so he can sit in that office and smoke his cigar. but okay, all of that aside, anyway, I was talking to Miss McKinney, and I had not been gone maybe 15 seconds, I don't know, not long, when Wellington opened the cage and reached in and grabbed Valentino. And he squeezed him. Yes, he squeezed him. Because Valentino was always been a sweet, low-key, kind-hearted little hamster. But if you squeeze him, he'll bite you. And he squeezed him, and he bit him. And he bit him. And I heard Wellington shriek all the way across the hall. And I dashed back. I ran back, Chauncey, to see what was going on. All HE double hockey sticks had broken loose in my classroom. It was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in the midst of Dante's Inferno. I just stood there transfixed and then paralyzed, because as soon as he got bit, he snatched his hand and threw poor little Valentino into the air, arcing over the heads of the children like a little cannonball. And everybody was shrieking. They were screaming. Now, do you have this picture, Chauncey? Do you have this picture now? Poor little Valentino is coming through the air, teeth and claws at the ready, actually in very militaristic form for a little hamster. And the children are running hither and yon. And the ones who aren't on the floor crying or in shock, they were trying to catch the thing. They were trying to catch it, Chauncey. Now, do you have this picture in your mind? Something with fur is coming at you from the air, teeth and claws first, and you're trying to catch it. Well, I did what any sensible teacher would do. I screamed, "No, children, don't try to catch him. He will bite." Before I could get the word bite out, Brittany Pettigrew stepped up, and she planted her little feet, and she focused in for the first time this year. And she organized her 2 IQ points. And she looked up, and she reached up, and she caught the thing. Whereupon she too gets bit, and she too snatches her hand and sends it airborne again. Well, Chauncey, he arced over in the direction of the beanbag chair. And I thought, oh, this could be good. I was hopeful for a minute or two. I thought if he lands on the beanbag chair, he won't be hurt, and no one else will get bit. But it wasn't to be, Chauncey. Because just as poor little Valentino arced over in the direction of the beanbag chair, Patricia Smith pushed Big Chester out of the way so she could dive under the science table. Well, Big Chester landed on top of the beanbag chair, on top of Valentino. It was nightmarish. It was horrible, Chauncey. You spoke up and you said, what? You told me that I should have kept a cool head? You, Chauncey? You are telling me about keeping a cool head? What would you know about keeping a cool head or having stress? You work in demolitions. You go to work every day and you blow up your problems, and then you come right on home. And not only that, you get real far away from your problem and you push a button. Well, I can't do that, Chauncey. I can't do that. I have to be real close and personal with my little charges. I have to watch them implode and explode at close range. I do not get a bomb suit. I have to go into that school building every day with my own personal fuse long enough to go from 8 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. So don't you talk to me about keeping a cool head. You are not being helpful. It was terrible though. But by the time I got them all lined up, and I put on bandages, and I picked up chairs, and I wiped away tears, and they were all lined up, ready to go, and oh, this is the worst part, Chauncey. I got a whiff of urine. Someone had wee-weed on themselves. And the worst thing about it was I wasn't completely sure it wasn't me. How's who? How's Valentino? Oh, he's at the vet. And it doesn't look good, Chauncey. It doesn't look good. The second story I would like to share with you is called Quality. And quality is something we all look for in all aspects of our lives. But sometimes we have it and don't even realize it till very late in the day. I've seen him any number of times. It's hard to miss a bright yellow Lamborghini driving past your window. And when I noticed him, I noticed him noticing me. I thought to myself, you know you want me. It was a Tuesday when he finally gave in to his temptation, and he parked the car, and I watched him as he strolled across the street. And I thought again to myself, you know you want me, think about it. Me, you, and your wife, big boy. And I can tell that you're a real 1% kind of guy because, I mean, the Lamborghini and all. Well, he came up to my window and I watched him appreciate me. He appreciated my gold buttons, my classic cut, my deep navy blue color, and my double-breasted closure. And then he came right in. He approached the woman working that day and he said, I'll take the navy blue Alexander McQueen designer jacket in the window, please. He knew quality. And she was all too happy to help him. She wrapped me up in her finest tissue. She put me in a beautiful box. She laid me gently in that box. And she picked me up and put the box in an even more beautiful bag. And he and I left Saks Fifth Avenue together. First stop, a huge walk-in closet, the size of the first floor of Saks all by itself. I'm surrounded by Versace, Dolce & Gabbana, all the fine brands, Chanel. I am right at home. And when my new owner, his wife, put me on for the first time, oh, we glowed, because after all, I was fabulous. And she wore me quite well. Oh, it was going to all work out beautifully. I knew I'd be a favorite. I knew that we would go everywhere together. Because after all, I was the pinnacle of high fashion. I was the epitome of good taste. I was the definition of quality. We were fine for a while, but now I knew that the Fendi bag was the best accessory for me, because after all, I'd been hanging around in Saks Fifth Avenue. I knew what to be worn with what, but she insisted on carrying that product. That should have been a warning to me right then that things might not all go well. And she had a wild streak in her, too, that I didn't appreciate. I'll never forget the day that she wore me to the apartment of a fella she knew. And she dropped me me on the floor, and she sashayed right on into his boudoir. Now, this woman was married to a man that most women would die to be married to. He was as handsome as a god, and he was rich, and he was handsome, and he was rich. And he showered her with all kinds of beautiful gifts, jewelry, all kinds of beautiful things, well, such as moi. What was she thinking? Well, for about a year, she and I, we killed it. Everywhere we went, we were photographed, we were envied, we were looked at. Oh, we were great until that horrible day when she allowed the ash from some type of cigarette to damage me. And even though the damage was infinitesimal, I was banished from the house. I found myself hanging in a consignment store. And granted, I was with all the good brands, but we were all just hanging there, cast-offs, just defenseless against the pawing of middle-class hands. In absolutely no time, I was spirited away by a school teacher. And I want you to know that her proportions did not allow for the proper fit and closure of my seams and buttons. Suffice it to say that my double breast was no match for her double breast. My buttons were badly strained. Well, she wore me for a few years. And I don't know, I heard her telling her friends that she only bought me because I was a real steal, and she knew I'd make the math teacher jealous. She didn't really like me that much. Okay, so I wasn't liked that much, and that did hurt my feelings just a bit. But by the time we parted, I was stretched out of shape and the 3 buttons gone. All my swagger and bravado, all my confidence was gone. I was no longer the epitome of anything. I was no longer beautiful. I lay there on a shelf in a Goodwill store until one day a man came in with his little boy, and it was October, so the child was looking for a Halloween costume. He said, "Daddy, I want to be a policeman like the nice ones in the storybooks." The father, needing clarification, said, "Do you mean an English Bobby?" The boy said, "Yes, yes. You know, the ones that wear the blue coats with the shiny gold buttons like that." And he pointed at me. They came over and they examined me, pulled my sleeves, looked at my lining. They decided that they could replace my buttons with buttons from the 99-cent store. So I went home with a man and a boy who wanted me for a Halloween costume. An unthinkable night ensued. A night of popcorn in my pockets and caramel drizzled down my front. It was horrible. And within the next week or so, I was thrown away. I was put in the trash can and taken out with the garbage. I sank into that garbage can, sad and ashamed and defeated, full of despair, until a pair of gnarled hands pulled me up out of that trash can. And I heard a voice say, "Look at this here, Jerome, this is made real good." Somebody appreciated me. Someone looked at my lining and saw that there had been hand stitching. Someone looked at my fabric and understood that even though I was stretched and old, I was woven with the best of stuff. Someone looked at me and realized that I had been designed by the master. She put me on right away and she smiled. She appreciated me. She had been a seamstress at better times. But now she and her husband, they live on the street, they have nothing. But she respects him and he respects her. And she takes good care of him because he was wounded in somebody's war. And now he doesn't navigate the world very well. And I I keep her as warm as I possibly can on those blustery nights and cold, chilly days. Not too long ago, we found ourselves in the vicinity of Saks Fifth Avenue. And who should walk by but my original owner? Of course, she never recognized me, but my new owner approached her with respect and shyly said, "Could you spare $1 or $2? We're hungry." My previous owner looked at us as if we were garbage, turned on her Jimmy Choos, and walked away. I wasn't surprised. That's just who she was. But in that little exchange, I realized something. I thought through all of my ups and downs and travels and hang-ups, I had finally found an owner of quality. Now, I tell you this story because the jacket is merely a metaphor for my life. And the hands that pulled me up out of the garbage and no life were not gnarled, they were pierced. Thank you.